This is Andy Gutierrez from StarWars.com, and you are listening to Coffee with Kenobi with Dan Z. This is the podcast you're looking for.
This is James Arnold Taylor, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi. I have a good feeling about this.
Joining us today for a cup of coffee to talk about Rampage, the 5th episode in the first season of Star Wars The Bad Batch, is, of course, Tom Gross. Tom, welcome back to the show.
Oh, hello. Enjoying this Bad Batch conversation every week, so I'm ready to get to it. Rampage!
All right, it's just going to be Clone Force Tom and Dan this week. We're just going, both of us are going to break this episode down. Tom, as always, give us your letter grade and overall thoughts.
Of course. This one is a solid A. So let's just run through the little check sheet here. We've got an old Jedi ally, check. Monsters, check. Breaking up a slave ring, check. Omega saves the day, check. Oh, again. Then Omega and Wrecker have fun. Uncle Echo, and some really great writing in this episode.
I love it. So there's some fun parts, to be sure. Yeah. I would say this one is an A, a nice solid A, very entertaining. Got some great suspense, some fun surprises. Kind of what, to me, what we're noticing in this very early series is that when it's a good episode, that's what you're going to get. Some fun surprises. It doesn't feel forced, but it's entertaining. There's some nice thrills, and there's a little bit of a step in the right direction. And finally, I feel like after 5 episodes, we may possibly have a direction for kind of what the point is, what the overall plot of season 1 of The Bad Batch is. So let's go ahead and get started. Right away, Omega, it gets Crosshair's comm device and instantly starts playing with it like any little kid would do with a walkie-talkie. Heck, how some grown-ups would play with a walkie-talkie. What do you make of the opening sequence?
I thought that was fun, and I wonder if your preview there, you paused before you said Crosshair's comm device, because that's kind of how I felt when Tech, as he's fitting it to Omega's hand, he sort of, he says, well, Crosshairs, but he's not going to be using. It just sort of gave me pause. This was a lot of fun, and in the preview, I mentioned Uncle Echo. So let me start mentioning why I said that. I really feel like if Hunter is going to play the father figure to Echo, and I think that continues. I don't think that's gone away. It hasn't been the focus of the stories the last 2 episodes, but I think Echo is now becoming the sort of disciplinarian uncle sort of figure. And this was the first place where she's kind of playing with it, and she's calling them out when she's standing right there with them. And Echo steps up and says, hey, this isn't a toy. This isn't a toy to be playing with, and gives her sort of the parental voice of, don't be messing with this. Okay. Yeah. And so, she has fun with it. He kind of, I don't want to say puts her in her place, but it very firmly is like, don't play with this. And then she does it. She has to do it one more time, as all kids, as we know, as fathers, we all know, anyone who has children, if you're a teacher with no child, you know that once you tell a kid not to do something, even the best kids have to do it.
They hear, okay, I got about 3 more chances.
Right. Yeah. And so she gives it a whirl. But what a fun opening to the episode.
It's pretty charming. I mean, interesting that you mentioned Echo the way that you did. I didn't pick up on the fact that he was being stern. I thought he just kind of, I guess he was, but it didn't come across as like authoritarian.
Oh no, I think it was like I said, it's kind of like that uncle who steps in and is like, hey, kids, stop it. Stop doing this, and then just goes on with it. He's also the true soldier. The Bad Batch have, they put up with their own tomfoolery of being soldiers. They barnstorm in season 7, and they do all that kind of stuff. So Echo being the straight up soldier, we don't mess with the equipment.
I also want to point out that on June 1st, 2021, I was today years old when I heard someone named Tom use the expression tomfoolery. How fun. How fun.
I love it. Yes, indeed. Tomfoolery.
Yeah. Yes, very good. So does that mean I have to say Dan Foolery? Sorry, this sounds more like CWK pour over.
It does,
conversation.
but no, I think tomfoolery is quite acceptable.
I agree. I concur. All right, so then we find out they're gonna land on Ord Mantell to find an old Jedi contact. This is the first time we've actually seen Ord Mantell, and for people who may not remember, you thought, "Gosh, this rings a bell." This is because on The Empire Strikes Back, when Han Solo reveals to General Regan at the beginning of the film, he says, "That bounty hunter we ran into in Ord Mantell's changed my mind."
Right.
That's why he realizes he's got to go because of the price on it. So did that come to your mind right away?
It did, absolutely. In fact, I have to be honest, I had to look that one up. But yes, absolutely. I recognized the name right away.
It's pretty cool. So they land on the planet. It looks very similar to most of these Outer Rim planets that they are going to. But, as far as the geography, the climate, all that good stuff, the architecture. But there are 3 rules that Echo has, and she has asked to repeat them. This is also the first time that the entire Bad Batch suits up with helmets on for the first time since, I think, together since the first episode. Does that sound right?
It does sound right. I noted that as well, that they popped those helmets on. And how cool is Echo's helmet, by the way?
It's the best. It's my favorite one.
Yeah.
It's very, very slick. So here the 3 rules are, and she repeats them. Don't wander off. Eyes and ears on your surroundings, and don't trust anyone but my squad. And again, I love the fact that they empower her to be with them, and they're not like nervous Netties or nervous Rex when she's with them. She's part of the team, albeit with a different skill set or certainly a different amount of training at this point.
Absolutely, and I thought it was nice consistency from the last episode where she gets lost in a city. And so here they're, correcting that behavior. And again, like I said, it was Echo mentioning the rules one more time.
It's true.
Playing in my eyes the Echo or the uncle aspect of it. But yeah, I love that she, she's part of the team now. And whether they're looking over her as a child or whether she's a part of the team, that is to be seen later in the episode, but certainly there she is.
And isn't it? So then we go into basically they're looking for someone named Sid at this point in the story. We don't know who Sid is, or what Sid is, but there's a very small amount of people or creatures or denizens inside this small little hovel or cantina type. But I'll let you go ahead and describe it and sort of talk about Sid in your first impressions.
Sure. They walk into this place, and as you mentioned, only a few people, or aliens, and the Bad Batch approaches one. It's a Trandoshan, smaller Trandoshan woman, and they say, "We're looking for Sid." Trandoshan's like, "Don't know any Sid here." And then that's when Echo reveals that, well, he's never personally met this Jedi contact. And I love Tech's response, like, well, it would have been nice to have known that in advance.
Yes.
Very Tech-like, sticking to the character. And but Omega sees through the tactic of the Trandoshan and calls her out and says, "I think you're Sid." And she doesn't put up a fight, doesn't put up any argument, just notes that you're very more aware than the gentleman that you walked in with. And I forget, she takes them back to her office, and I don't remember. Oh, it's the mention of the Jedi, I believe. And so and she says something about something about clone troopers, rogue clone troopers or something. But it really gave you that feeling of this is we're working with the underworld here, and she is, but at the same time she's very willing to work with them or at least hear them out.
Right. A few things spring to mind right away. It's neat to see a Trandoshan that is different than the norm of the Trandoshans we've seen. As soon as Sid, I didn't know right away who Sid was, although it certainly didn't take very long to figure it out. I figured it out before the rest of the Bad Batch did. And of course, Omega is the one who does it, which is what eventually opens the door for them going into basically her office area. But as soon as Sid started talking, I right away, and I'm usually pretty adept at figuring these out. I'm like, okay, I know this voice. Who is this person? Who is this person? And then when she became extra snarky, especially in a bar, I thought, well, this is Rhea Perlman. This is Carla from Cheers. What a delight. Yes. She was fantastic. Talk about her performance in this episode.
Oh my gosh. I wish I could remember some of the quotes, and maybe you know them better, but yes, it was so, she's underworld, she's underworld, Sid is. And so you just never know what you're going to get. But this was, it was refreshing that it was sort of a light underworld feel. Now that doesn't mean to say that there weren't some like queasy kind of moments or moments where you're like, yeah, okay, this doesn't feel right. But yeah, it was nice and light, and she had some really great lines. I forget. Oh, he talks.
Yeah.
when Wrecker makes a comment, and there's a couple of things like that, moments like that where she does that, and it was fun. It added to the levity of the show, but it's a really serious place. They have a certain concern. They want to find out who this individual that's after them is. And being the underworld, information is not given away freely, and there's going to be a twist to it that's not going to be pleasant. And so, while Rhea Perlman is fun to hear, she also plays it really well. That something not right is going to happen.
Yeah, she mentions that there was no need for her services. Sid spelled C-I-D, by the way. Since the Jedi are dead, and so she hasn't had much to do, but. It kind of stands to reason. I'd like to see which Jedi were working with her, and maybe that will come out later. It kind of stands to reason that she errs on the side of good, or at least maybe more towards what would a Dungeons and Dragons alignment be for Sid? Would you say not just neutral?
Oh, that's a good one. Like a chaotic good, maybe,
or like a lawful good,
maybe chaotic good.
Not lawful good, but
she's
maybe
not lawful.
Maybe lawful neutral.
Oh, it could be that. It could be that. Yeah, we'd have to know more. But yeah, certainly that's a good point that I didn't really consider. Is she did work with the Jedi, right. So there's probably some sort of lawful or at least good to her alignment, I suppose. Yeah,
there must be. Early on in this, when Sid starts talking with the Bad Batch and explain to them that they are to go and get some kid named Moochie. They're going to split the bounty 70-30. But right off the bat, something happens after we get down to actually arranging the deal. And she looks at Omega and says, it appears you were the brains of the outfit. She and Wrecker high five. And it's my favorite episode in the entire, it's my favorite part of the entire episode. In fact, it was my number one on our Facebook Live. But my gosh, that is so charming because they didn't miss a beat. They look at each other, boom, high five. There's a depth and a bond to the two of them, and when we see Wrecker's getting his headaches again, you just think, oh my gosh, they're setting us up for some real heartbreak. I'm afraid.
Oh my gosh, I missed the headaches. Where did he start talking about his headaches?
It's pretty much around the high five situation.
Is it really?
In fact, it's almost right. It's almost right after it, and like, oh man, because again, that bond the two of them have is rapidly becoming one of my favorite things about this series. It's just a sweet little high five, and it's wonderful. I mean, Wrecker could be some jarhead who has no patience for anybody who's not as tough as him, but he's not like that at all.
Oh, he's great with the kids. I mean, we'll clear back into the episode with Cut and his kids. The kids love him, and he loves the kids. And so you do kind of have this like family dynamic that's being built between all of the characters. The one that's left now is Tech, I suppose, to have some sort of a connection to Omega, which I would suspect that's coming, especially now that she's been given the title of the brains of the outfit. I'm sure that's not going to sit well with Tech, but that moment was wonderful. And it's a split second. If you're not watching, you really could miss that. And if anybody did, like I missed the headache part, apparently. But if you missed that high five, you're right, Dan. It was so natural. It was not pressured. It was not pushed, like put into the forefront. They're in the background, and just there's a split between a couple of the characters, and you see them just do that high five or give me five. It was great. That was a wonderful moment of this. I'm so happy to know that that's your number one from the Facebook Live.
I love it because it clearly has happened before. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
You can tell when
Yes,
people
it
have
was
a
so
handshake or whatever. It's so good.
Yeah.
So then we find out the Zygerians, the slave traders that we know from, I believe it's either season 3 or 4 of the Clone Wars. I don't have it in front of me right now.
Okay. Yeah.
They're really nasty baddies. They're very easy to root against because of what they stand for. Tech has this very eloquent and very adult explanation of what does this mean? Because Omega's has never heard the term of a slaver before. He has no idea what that is, or she has no idea what that is. He explains it. She's like, "Oh, that's bad," and he says, "Yeah, it's very bad. It's very bad." And I really like here. We've talked about Echo a little bit. I really like that Echo's kind of his scruples appear when we respond to the fact that yes, we're helping this child, we're freeing them from slavers, but we're also getting paid for it. And Echo is, of course, he's not turning it down, but even the fact that on his radar are the scruples of, yeah, maybe this is not so squeaky clean after all if we're getting paid to do this. Anyway, would we be helping this child if we weren't getting paid? And you can tell that it affects Echo a little bit, as well as Omega.
Oh, yes. I did catch that. And his tone changes slightly when he says that. And, I just go back to him as a soldier.
Yeah.
And, the things that he has seen and again, I call him a straight up soldier. There's probably a better name for him. But he is the one that, he spent a career following orders and doing what's right. And he worked with the Jedi, not just a soldier who kills and, conquers, but he worked with the Jedi. So he has a sense of, his order taking has a sense of morality to it. And so the fact that they're, oh yeah, we're going to rescue this child from slavery, but there's just sort of that bad taste on his tongue of, oh, but are we doing it for, would the Jedi take money for this is what I'm guessing he's thinking when he says that.
It could be, and the answer would be no, I would think, but there is some interesting shifts with him. I like how he's growing. He is growing more than any member of the Bad Batch so far. He's the most well-rounded to this point. And again, we're not going to put the official measuring stick out there for this because it's so incredibly early with these characters in this episode. But Echo is starting to jockey, at least in my mind, is my favorite member of the Bad Batch. It's always been Hunter, and I still love Hunter, but Echo is rapidly climbing for me.
I would 100% agree. And it's been sitting in the back of my mind, but I love that you're bringing that out now because I can think of, as you're talking about, so many ways in which he's showing growth. And I look forward to how that continues to change or hope, I guess, continue to hope that changes. And if there's going to be some kind of, I don't want to say a reveal because that implies certain things. I don't think that's what we're headed with it, but I just like to see where we are headed with Echo. Definitely making note of that.
Is Tech still your favorite?
At this point, I will still say yes. Echo is certainly coming, but I think probably my second favorite after Tech is Omega. It's surprising coming from me because how I feel about most of the time the way kids either are portrayed in this, but Echo's taking the same trajectory as like Ahsoka did in the Clone Wars. I bristled a little bit at her comments about Sky Guy and stuff like that, as many of us did. But it didn't take too many seasons or even too many episodes for that matter before I started really kind of noting that Ahsoka's a really deep character, and she's apparently going to have as much impact on Anakin as Anakin would have on her and even Obi-Wan. And so I'm kind of feeling the same way about Omega, that I'm enjoying her growth. I'm enjoying the way she kind of makes the Bad Batch like a family. And maybe that's what it is that's what I'm really enjoying about Omega.
She's Mason's favorite now, even more than Wrecker.
Is that right? Very
which I
cool.
think is really neat.
Yeah.
I do want to point out something that is not related to this. It's related to episode 421, where we looked at the last episode, Cornered. I had mentioned that Snaggletooth was the first Solistan, but Nine Numb was a Solistan, and Snaggletooth is a Snivian. And I screwed that up. Eric Okenhoot sent me a DM on Twitter, give me a heads up on that, and I said thank you. I appreciate that. I didn't usually I look things like that up if I'm not sure, but I just clearly I was so it was off.
What a good catch.
Yeah.
I mean, it's much more minute than my Fennec Shand and Fen Rao, of course. But wow, good catch.
Yeah, I know, man. We all make mistakes. We pick each other up. So thank you, Eric. I appreciate that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
All right, so let's go ahead and take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to talk about meeting the Zygerians and Moochie. This is Coffee with Kenobi.
This is Vanessa Marshall, and you're listening to Coffee with Kenobi.
If you are getting ready to plan that Walt Disney World or Disneyland vacation, look no further than MEI and Mouse Fan Travel, the official travel partner of Coffee with Kenobi. Their signature service and expert advice will help clients maximize their vacation time and dollar. And it is a no-cost, no-obligation quote. That's right. You can have them help you set up your vacation exactly how you want to make it work for you and your family. They'll give you all kinds of tips about what is the best day to go to what parks, how to use the park reservation system on either coast, and what the lines are like and what that means for you as far as planning and getting there when the park opens. And whether you are an experienced vacation planner or you are a first-timer, they can help you as well. They contact you throughout the trip to make sure things are going well, to give you suggestions and advice, or answer any questions that you might have, and you will have them when you're traveling on these amazing vacations. And there's nothing better than having Becky Mankin and her team at MEI and Mouse Fan Travel to help you as you go along. Becky Mankin and her team are fantastic, and I use them both for travel, for Coffee with Kenobi, and for my family vacation. So if you feel safe and comfortable traveling, MEI and Mouse Fan Travel will help you get to the Disney theme parks, the cruise lines when they open, the future Star Wars Halcyon, the Galactic Star Cruiser, and of course, Celebration 2022 in Anaheim. If you have any questions or want to go ahead and get a free, no obligation quote, please be sure to go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefantravel and let them know that Dan Z and Coffee with Kenobi sent you. We're back, and now we're going to take a look at what happens when we encounter the Zygerians. And we talked about Echo's response to his him being torn for getting paid for it. But they're all together, they're all geared up. And then they decide, look, they're going to be a simple smash and grab. But it's never that simple, not only in the Bad Batch, but in Star Wars altogether.
Yes.
Omega is asked to stay on the ship. And then she takes her trooper doll and she paints it into a Bad Batcher, which I found incredibly charming. I'm not sure there's much to say there, but I thought it was pretty cute.
I thought that was cool, and I love that she has a little relationship with the Gonk droid.
Yes.
She says, "Do you like my soldier? He's he's part of the Bad Batch." And I think I think what's important about that is she's still a child. She carries the doll. Of course, Wrecker carries the doll, for heaven's sakes. But she's she's still a doll. But this kind of shows her growth that she's relating to the Bad Batch here. But yeah, neat moment.
Then it becomes not so neat because the Zygerians go onto the ship, and there's always that moment, and maybe it's just when you get a little bit of that kind of suspense here when Omega is hiding on the ship. She tells the Gonk droid to hide, and they're walking around. They don't do anything to the ship. They don't try to take it or vandalize or anything like that. But knowing that Omega is there was pretty scary. And then of course she runs right into danger to try to do her part, but she doesn't strike me as someone who's just a meddling kid who's trying to prove something. I really feel like this is just organic for her, and while it's certainly more risky than someone in the Clone Force 99 doing it, there's still sort of comfort in her doing that. I don't know, it's kind of a paradoxical feelings, really.
Oh, interesting. I I just saw it as she's doing what she knows to do.
Yeah.
I mean, she's bailed. I mean, gosh, if you don't have an astromech droid, let's hope you have Omega with you, because who's going to come to the rescue? I wanted to mention how off kilter Clone Force 99 really is. I thought the Zygerians took them with too much ease, and not too much ease, but going into that, they had the plan. Wrecker, you're gonna cause distraction. Echo, you're the eye in the sky. I really felt like, wow, they're like Hunter's directions, and the way they were approaching that was very Clone Force 99. But man, they just blew it one after. I mean, you weren't counting on a monster that could fly. I mean, that was what set it, kind of broke their secrecy.
Sure.
But they were taken way easier than I thought Clone Force 99 should. But they don't have the sniper and crosshairs, and so I really thought that was interesting. How quickly Omega escapes that inspection of the ship and just goes to work. I really appreciate that about her, and it's one of the things I'm coming to like about her. And can I say one more thing about your comment of the ship?
Sure.
So I have to a little. It's not confession, but just after my daughter and I watch Bad Batch an episode, we've been going back and watching an episode of The Mandalorian. Why? I don't know. Bad Batch is only like 20 minutes, so we feel like we've just whetted our appetite of Star Wars, and so we've been going back and watching The Mandalorian, and all I keep thinking while watching The Mandalorian is, why doesn't anyone ever mess with this ship? Well, they do. Of course, we know the Jawas get in immediately, and really, the Razor Crest is probably the most messed with ship when it sits vacant than any ship in Star Wars. And so that played into this thought that you're talking about, where the Zygerians do go to the ship and just sort of inspect it. And you're right, they don't vandalize it, take anything. They don't grab the gonk droid or anything else. But boy, that moment when that Zygerian sort of, you see his eyes peer over the seat, and then they go to a first person point of view where he looks over the seat, I got the chills. Because she's there by herself, and I was like, I thought for sure she'd go for the compartment where they hid where she hid with Tech and Echo in one of the last episodes, but she didn't. She goes through an escape hatch down to the cockpit.
I mean, every episode has one good suspense moment where you're legitimately worried about one of the characters, and I feel like that's pretty neat, even because again, we don't know the trajectory of these characters.
Right.
But getting an opportunity to kind of feel that, oh no, and that gasping moment is pretty fun. So the Brezak is the flying creature that you mentioned, Brezak. And that is the pet of the Zygerian leader, who's a real slime ball again. And when he and Hunter fight, it's very satisfying when Hunter defeats him, I think. So we're there. The Bad Batch gets captured pretty quickly and pretty easily, really. And I like the traditional aspect of, when someone is tied up and they're able to slowly loosen their restraints, and Wrecker's like, hey, I think I'm getting these loose. And then one of the slavers pushes this button and shocks him. And nope, sorry, we've seen these tricks before. So you get the sense that it's going to be a bit more challenging than usual for the Bad Batch to escape. And ironically, they get help from Omega, who is extremely clever, extremely slick. And I was particularly intrigued by the fact that, Tom, when they see that she's out doing her thing, again, they obviously care, but they don't panic and act like anxiety-prone parents, like some of us can be at different occasions, depending on the situation. They just kind of smile, almost smirk, but not quite, but seem very sort of, I don't even know how to describe it. They're not amused, but they're just like, all right, let's do this. Let's see what she's going to do. And they're obviously concerned that she's in over her head, but they also are not worried either. It's really fascinating to me.
Hunter is the only one that kind of gives an indication of just hold your spot or move back. He kind of gives her a head nod.
He gives a big old jerk, like, go back.
Yeah. And she kind of takes a half crawl back. But again, it's Echo who kind of comes, kind of gives her the idea of what to do because he speaks up in an obviously loud tone and says, "Boy, it's a good thing we don't have our gear." And she instantly looks and finds, where it is. And yeah, but you're right, exactly. That nobody in Tech isn't Tech the one that sees her first, or maybe Echo sees her, but then Tech makes the comment of, "Well, we're not going to have to worry about finding her."
Yeah.
So he makes the obvious statement, not in terms that the Zagirians would know what he's talking about, but so yeah, she goes to work, and she first goes. The sequence kind of I'm trying to remember the sequence, but she starts going for the gear. A rock slips from her. She hides as they all look. And boy, they just have, I don't know what their faces are. They're kind of like a bird-like face, but boy, do they have wolfy eyes.
They remind me of Thundercats.
Yeah. That's a good one. But Thundercats with unfriendly eyes.
Yes.
That's what I kept looking at with them. And the leader kind of has that false eye.
Yeah. Showing he's been in some battles.
Yeah. So he's got his scars that makes him tougher than all the rest. But then she crawls over and discovers that she's on top of something that has cage bars, and there's something threatening in the inside. And I love that she jumps down. Oh no, she even says to herself, "I've got an idea," or something along those lines. And she jumps down in front of the cage where the gate is, and she starts tinkering with the doors before she's taken by a couple of the guards. And they pull her back and they say, "Look what we found her trying to do." And she says, "Trying? I've done." Or I'm messing up the words.
She says, "I wasn't sneaking, I was unlocking."
Thank you. I'm glad you write down the quotes, because boy, I sure messed those up. And she drops the lock, and you hear the growling and the thunder inside,
Right.
and then boom, out comes a young Rancor.
Right.
And I did not notice, after seeing the young Rancor, I thought, is that the way it is in Return of the Jedi? And sure enough, the nostrils are above the eyes. I did not notice that in Return of the Jedi, but it's really clear when they're young.
It's fun. There's the Star Wars Kids YouTube channel has like educational videos that are on about the world of Star Wars, and they had one this week about Rancors. And here's what we know about Rancors. It was pretty cool. I highly recommend that people check it out. Mason loves watching it. But
cool.
The you mentioned Omega. She hits that rock, of course, and it trickles down, and they look around, and to throw them off the scent, Wrecker pulls a much, much larger rock towards him, and then he kicks it. He gets it off the ground and kicks it in the air, goes airborne, and knocks down one of the Zygerians, which I thought was awesome and kind of a nice twist on the archetypal, "Oop, I made a noise," and when I'm trying to sneak. I love that. But then we find out the Zygerians have some motivation. They want to return to Kadava, which is the planet they're from. They think that they're going to flourish with the Empire in charge. This is one of the first times we've seen everything we've seen with the Empire so far has been all about propaganda and trying to assuage everyone that they are actually in it for your betterment, for safety, for security, for protection and order. But the Zygerians see right through it. Obviously, they've had a lot of dealings with the Empire, but they feel like they're going to do a great job doing what they want to do because the Empire is in charge. Wanted to point that out. You mentioned Muchi. It was a great surprise when we realized that Faline girl is not actually Muchi. It's actually the Rancor, and he's actually going to Rampage. Let's talk about Muchi. I found Muchi to be fascinating.
Well, you know what I thought? It was the G-rated version of the Rathtars from Force Awakens.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that was a horrifying scene. It was very horror-like. But this one, because the Rancor popping out of there, being very agile, unlike it was when it's huge in Return of the Jedi. It kind of has the same type of as the title of the episode implies, Rampage. And he just goes crazy. And they've already set up that these Zygerians are bad news, and just not even so much. And I mean, I guess they are formidable and dangerous because they captured the Bad Batch with really very little sweat. But it's more what they do, and that they capture people and they sell people. I mean, that's a horrible, horrible thing. And so watching the Rancor come out and do that to them, it was entertaining. Watching him kind of or watching Mochi go and do this. And even when what'd you call it? Breezak? Even when the Breezak flew down and Mochi bites it on the tail and then sort of starts beating it around, I was like, wow, even as a child, the Rancor is formidable.
Strong.
But boy, do I love the resolution to like settling down or quote unquote capturing the Rancor.
Yeah, it becomes very alpha. The tech tells us that Rancors have a social hierarchy.
Yeah.
So you have to basically defeat them in combat. And Wrecker's like, works for me, and he strolls out there. And this is the clone that is able to lift up a Republic starship and does the Bad Batch episode of season 7 of Clone Wars. So I thought, okay, this is going to be fascinating, and he's certainly strong enough. I mean, I guess we'll find out just how strong a Rancor really is. But they basically pull like a Rocky, where you try to tire out, Apollo Creed. That's the only way you're going to win. And that's exactly what happens at the very end. And I really love that. I love that Muchi kind of tumbles down, but then Wrecker basically instantly, as soon as the fight's over, basically pets him like a nice little pet. Like there's no hard feelings. There's no anger. There's no animosity here. I beat you, so I'm in charge, but I want to make sure you're okay, little buddy. I love that.
I do too. It just takes me back to the theme of when the Nexu, and you to overcome or to quote unquote win, you do not have to kill, you do not have to humiliate. You can scare a Nexu away and survive the day. You don't have to kill or, completely obliterate and knock out to unconsciousness a Rancor to defeat it. Wrecker, treats him with respect. And I love that too. And I took note of that as well, that I think it sends a really positive message, first of all, but also, it's character development for Wrecker in my eyes. He's not just a thug, and he doesn't just like to beat things up. I mean, we kind of get that idea as he's leaving in their last episode of season 7 of Clone Wars, where Anakin gives him the detonator, and he's like, "Here, Wrecker, you take this." And he's like, "Oh boy!" And he blows up. There's that side of Wrecker, but here there's a little bit more dignity because they know that the Rancor is not evil. The Rancor is fighting for, quote, his life. And so when it comes down to this, it's establishing this hierarchy. And once again, tech coming to the rescue with information. Can you believe it? Information!
Yes.
Wins the day, because without that information, you wouldn't have known that. And maybe you would have had to have done an out and out defeat of the Rancor. But it's a hierarchy. It's a social structure. And so they take advantage of that. That moment was so, so wonderful. And we both laughed when it turned out to be this like boxing match. When I say we both, my daughter and I, we just laughed so much at that whole moment. And then when he goes down and he gives a thumbs up, I can't remember what was said at the end, but Wrecker just gives the thumbs up and I'm all right.
Yeah. Nice little Rancors, and I don't know.
Yeah, it was wonderful. It was wonderful.
Before that, and sort of concurrently with that, I suppose, is when Hunter fights the head slave trader. Mm-hmm. And I love the fight. I alluded to it earlier, but he takes one of his light whips. I wonder if it's anything like in the High Republic, and gets it around Hunter, who's clearly in pain, but pulls it towards him and defeats him, showing, you're not so tough without your whip, are you? Whereas Hunter is about as tough as they come.
Yep.
In fact, when we were watching this, Mason had said Hunter fights like Batman does. When it comes to hand-to-hand combat, he's not somebody you want to fight with. And I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, I really enjoyed that too. He without a weapon. I mean, he had his knife, which is obviously they're formidable. And when they did that attack run on that Republic or oh the Separatist ship,
Yeah.
and they have that moment where they go in and he just stabs with it. But yeah, he takes that and just continues to wrap it forward and wrap it forward. You mentioned Wrecker with the Rocky movie. I almost see Balboa there in that moment where he's
Yeah.
just pulling that in and he's feeling the pain, but it almost invigorates him rather than beats him down. And
That's right.
you don't mess with Hunter.
Eye of the Tiger, man. Eye of the Tiger.
Yeah.
So good. So earlier we didn't mention this, but there's a preview of who Sid has hired, or who has
Yes.
hired asked Sid to retrieve Moochie. And you see the cloak, you see the nails, you hear the Huttese. You naturally think of Bib Fortuna, but you're not sure.
Yep.
At the end of this, we find out not only was it true, but it's Matthew Wood, who is the voice of Bib Fortuna and portrays Bib Fortuna in both The Mandalorian and in The Phantom Menace. Yeah, right here as well.
I missed that. Very cool.
Yeah, it's great. So then before we get to see the reunion, Omega is riding Moochie and Wrecker says that's a good Rancor. Absolutely delightful. Again, like we've been saying, there's a couple of patterns here. There's always a good suspenseful moment. There's always a good moment with some sort of wildlife that doesn't resort to violence or become resolved through violence. But that's a good Rancor. I mean, how cute is that?
Oh my gosh. I've seen several comments throughout the socials about that moment. And I think it's wonderful. I don't know, it's reminiscent of, the parade at the end, and again, it's the relationship between all of them, and the Rancor is almost like a pet at that moment. And it really kind of made me sad to think, oh, Bib Fortuna is going to take it. And I know where that's going.
Yeah. But it seems Patissa is the canonical name from Aftermath that is used to refer to the Rancor. But I've also seen other explanations where Patissa is a Huttese term of endearment or affection. So it may or may not be the same name, but I know we want to jump to the conclusion that this is the Rancor that eventually is defeated by Luke Skywalker in Return of the Jedi. But I don't think we have enough actual evidence to assume that. Either way, the Moochie really acts like a little kitten when it sees Bib Fortuna. And by the way, so does Bib Fortuna, who's never shown even a semblance of a heart or compassion in any way, shape, or form. So that was rather nice to see as well.
Oh, I guess, I missed that too. Yeah, that's a good call. I like that.
So we've got, at the end, what does she call him? Dark and brooding, come this way.
Yeah.
Sid basically says that, you need friends and money.
Mostly money.
I'm here to help you. And when that happened, I thought, here we go. Maybe we're finally going to have a trajectory for this first season. They are going to be like the A-Team, earning money, using their skill set to try to survive. But I mean, they're still hiding from the Empire. But is the Empire really pursuing them, or is the Empire pursuing Omega? We've got a lot of spinning plates going on. Again, it's not the most complex thing, but it doesn't have to be. It's very entertaining. It's very fun. I love the animation. Hopefully Sid will be around for a while. We'll get to see a lot of cool adventures because we're only 5 in and there's 16 in the first season. Yeah. So, I'm here for it, man. I'm loving it.
Oh, absolutely. I'm in. And this was the episode I kind of needed. I was a little grouchy last time about the lack of focus of Clone Force 99 and like what's going on. And I thought this one really sort of shaped it. As you had mentioned, I was a little less directional on the end when she offers the money and suggested, hey, there's more where that came from. I really felt like Hunters didn't shut the door on that, but kind of implied that, I don't know that we're all that interested. But I was a little left at I had a sense of unease. Now you've calmed that a little bit in that maybe she's going to be an informant. We talked about her potential alignment is probably more on the good side than the bad. But she says at the end, she goes, "Don't worry, I'm good with secrets." And I don't know, maybe it's just the Trandoshan grin, but I didn't feel good about that because Hunter sort of does a double take. And all I could think was, she doesn't say she's good at keeping secrets.
True.
And Hunter knows it. And I just go back to thinking about the ending of the last episode where Fennec Shad walks into that hangar where the guy is, and we thought that she's going to kill him, and she flips a little money his way and says, "Hey, keep me in mind. I want to know what's going on." And I just, so money was important there. And here, money is important as well. And we know that money comes with secrets, or secret comes with money. And so, I don't know. I just felt a little like it made my shoulders wiggle a little bit in the chair as she said that. I want to believe that she's in on them. And again, thinking back to she did work with the Jedi, then, you calm my nerves a little bit there. But again, she's a Trandoshan. And that look that Hunter gives, I think he knows too.
Well, we learned that Fennec Shand is new. We learned that this is a direct commission through the guild, and these are all Mandalorian terms. These terms were not used in the Clone Wars from what I can remember, although I could be wrong. And so I think that's interesting. And they know that she's already created a reputation for herself as being basically dangerous, lethal, and resourceful. And she certainly is all of that.
And that's what Sid says that gives me all that. She says, you must be quite valuable to have such a bounty hunter on your back.
Yeah.
That's what made me think, she's thinking money here, not help.
Right. I don't know. I will be shocked if Sid ends up betraying him. I don't see that. But again,
I hope you're right.
Hard. Difficult to see the future. So, Tom, anything you want to add about this episode before we wrap it up?
No, I keep this one at a solid A. I'm saving the A pluses for things that carry weight down the road. Mm-hmm. So this is probably be about as high high a score as I would give at this point in the season. We learned a lot, and we saw character development in this one. Some characters stayed and the way they were, but looking at Omega, looking at Echo, I thought we saw development there. Hunter and Tech continue to strengthen what we believe in them. Some new people and some old people. I thought it was great.
Yeah, it's fun. I like when they take some old characters or old ideas and give them a new twist, like a baby Rancor. Who knew we needed that? And the social hierarchy with Wrecker, and just the charming nature of his character, and the way the relationships he has with children, with animals, and just he's heart. Yeah. He's got a lot of heart. So that's fun. See the continual evolution of Echo, and who knows? I mean, it seems like we're going to see Crosshair pretty soon, but I guess we will find out soon enough.
Listening to Coffee with Kenobi, you are, with Dan Z, the podcast you're looking for. This is... yes.
As we near the end of the show today, I want to thank each and every one of you for taking time out of your busy schedule to have a cup of coffee with me, and for helping to spread the word about our Star Wars family we've got here at Coffee with Kenobi. Be sure to tune in Monday nights at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time on Facebook Live at www.coffeewithkenobi.com/live or www.facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi, and have a cup of coffee, tea, or any beverage of your choosing with me as we continue the conversation. To join us in the CWK Cafe, which is our Facebook group, and share your Star Wars thoughts, comments, reviews, and opinions in a family-friendly, spoiler-free place that is also drama-free, go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/community and be part of the conversation, talk about this week's show, or just talk about some Star Wars. We have a lot of fun, and you'll make some new friends, as well as catch up with longtime friends along the way. I also want to thank all of the new and longtime members of the CWK Alliance and let you know how much I appreciate your help and encouragement. If you want to join the CWK Alliance, go to www.cwkalliance.com and sign up today. Not only will you help out Coffee with Kenobi, but you also get access to CWK Pour-Over, the exclusive weekly podcast not heard anywhere else. It's a great way to support and help out the show, and 10% of your monthly contributions go directly to the St. Jude Children's Hospital to support the incredibly important work they are doing to help these brave children and their families. Plus, contributors at the CWK All-Star level can watch a video podcast of CWK Pour-Over hosted by me, Tom Gross, and Corey Clubb. Feel free to reach out anytime if you have any questions. In addition to being part of the community on Facebook, please don't forget to visit our website at www.coffeewithkenobi.com for Star Wars news, announcements, reviews, videos, and so much more. If you have a question for me or just want to share your thoughts on the air, feel free to email me at danz@coffeewithkenobi.com and I'll share them on the show. You can also connect with me on Twitter at Mr. Zaire, MRZEHR, or on Instagram at DanZairCWK. There are also a lot more ways to connect with me and Coffee with Kenobi on social media. Follow us on Twitter and Instagram. Give us a like on Facebook at facebook.com/coffeewithkenobi. Check us out on Pinterest or subscribe to our Coffee with Kenobi YouTube channel. On our YouTube channel, you can find Facebook Live video, different interviews throughout the years, highlights of video coverage throughout the Coffee with Kenobi history, and the audio podcast itself. You can order my book, The Star Wars Book, which I co-wrote with Lucasfilm's Pablo Hidalgo and Cole Horton, on Amazon, Barnes & Noble, Target, Books A Million, Walmart, or anywhere books are sold. You can also find my writing on Coffee with Kenobi's website, as well as StarWars.com, where I am an official blogger there, and on IGN, where I contribute occasionally to articles about Star Wars, as well as other popular culture topics. If you are considering starting a podcast or a blog, let me know how I can help you get started and make your creative vision a reality. Be sure to check out danzmedia.com and we can get the process started. I am also available to come to your school, conference, business, or organization to talk about how to tap into your strengths and help you bring out your very best. I want to inspire you to be inspired so you can take that first step into a larger world. Thanks as always to our Coffee with Kenobi sponsors, especially MEI and Mouse Fan Travel, our travel partner and your one-stop shop for all things Walt Disney World, Disneyland, the Disney Cruise Lines, or anywhere on the planet you want to go on your vacation. Please go to www.coffeewithkenobi.com/mousefantravel to book your magical vacation and help support Coffee with Kenobi in the process. If you like the show, please tweet out that you're listening, share it on Facebook, or invite your friends and family to tune in and share a cup of coffee with us. And if the Force is especially with you, please take a couple of minutes to rate and review the show on iTunes or Google Podcasts. Every review makes a huge difference and helps to spread the word, and I can't thank you enough for your help, for your support, and your friendship. I love so much being a part of this wonderful Star Wars community, and I can't thank you enough for all that you do for me and Coffee with Kenobi. So, Tom, very, very fun as always talking Star Wars The Bad Batch, or just talking in general with you. Of course, we do it each and every week on CWK Pour-Over. If you're a member of the CWK Alliance, even if you want to contribute as little as $1, you have a way to help out Coffee with Kenobi, and we like to give back to you as well. So besides that, Tom, please let everybody know where they can continue the conversation with you and let them know about your blog as well.
Absolutely. So let me know what you thought about The Bad Batch. Are you liking Echo, the development of Echo or Omega? Catch me on Twitter at Draftline, DRAFTLINE. Let me know what your thoughts are there. If you want to see my thoughts on Star Wars, Dungeons and Dragons, baseball, or any other sorts of topics, sort of a hodgepodge, I have a blog, and thank you, Dan, for bringing that up. The blog is on Blogger, and the title of it is Seeking Positivity in the Galaxy.
That's going to do it for this week's episode of Coffee with Kenobi. Thank you so much to everyone for joining us, and be sure, as you're watching next week's The Bad Batch, to record or write down your top 5 favorite moments from the brand new episode, and join us on Facebook Live every Monday night at 8 o'clock p.m. Central Standard Time, so you can share your immediate thoughts, reactions, and opinions with everybody in the Coffee with Kenobi family. It's so much fun to be able to do this, to have this opportunity to talk with each and every one of you about Star Wars. I'm just very honored and excited, as always, to be a part of this wonderful community, and I thank you all so very much. Have a great, wonderful week and weekend, everybody, and remember, this is the podcast you're looking for. We'll see you next time, everybody.
This podcast is not endorsed by the Walt Disney Company or Lucasfilm Limited. It is intended for entertainment and informational purposes only. The official Star Wars website can be found at www.starwars.com. Star Wars, all names, sounds, and any other Star Wars related items are registered trademarks and/or copyrights of Disney and their respective trademark and copyright holders. All original content of this podcast is the intellectual property of Coffee with Kenobi unless otherwise indicated.
This is the podcast you're looking for.